So I assume by staying on the call that you accept to be recorded. But nothing will be held against you, held personally. But welcome. So good to see you all on this Sales Mastery workshop. For those that have been before, you'll know what we sort of cover. For those that are new, the Sales Mastery is one of a series of 6 that we repeat every 3 months. The content does change, so I don't like doing the same thing over and over again, so I'll put in different slides. The group will be different every time, so there'll be different conversations that you'll take us down different paths. So I'd always say, even though you've done it once, do come back at least once a year, a couple of times a year to be part of it. I know Keith's done it a few times over the years. There's always something you learn, at a deeper level, and yet the problems that you face will be different each time as well. So today is all about sales, which is really all about conversion. So this is not lead generation. So that's our marketing one, which we will do in a few months' time. This is very much about actually we've got a lead that's come in, an inquiry that's come in. How do we convert that lead and get them across the line? So the first thing I'd like you to do is just write down for yourself, or if you can, put it into the chat box, what would be one key learning you'd like to get away from today? So what's a particular challenge you've got around sales, or a question, just to focus your mind, and it'll make sure that I cover that in the time that we've got today. So just grab your chat box and just put in there what's one key thing that will be good for me to cover for you. Oops. Make sure my pen works. Okay, so Luke, how to keep clients spending. We tend to do a bit more on the keeping clients spending in the customer mastery. So that's more about the repeat business. This is very much about new business and bringing new business in. So you'll have to come to that one. So getting clients across the line. So good, that's a good one, Leslie. How do we encourage them to actually buy? Certainly in today's world where there's a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons why I shouldn't commit because of the uncertainty with what's going on. So having some ideas on that. How to grow 50%. Okay, so a little bit more specific from that, Luke, would be good. Confirming the budget. So we'll certainly look into setting our sales targets. I think that's critical to understand how we do that. So selling to a client you've had no dealing with before. I mean, this is really what we're looking at here. This is new business where we're taking somebody through a process in order to get them to actually buy predominantly for the first time. If it's the second time, we still use this, but some of the parts in this process will already been happened because they've already bought from you. So, good. Any others? Oh, there's Amazon deliveries coming. Hopefully you'll just let me, while you're writing that, I'll be back in 1 second. Well, there's nothing on there that says, whatever the name of your place is, they're dead end, isn't it? And then I of course come down here and all the signs. Got things in front of it. Oh, of course, yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers. The wonders of Amazon. Okay, so we got some ideas up there. So we really want to be thinking about our conversion of the lead that's come in. So if we take you back to the fundamentals, back to the 5 ways, so the key 5 ways to grow the business, we're really looking at this area here. So this is what we're looking at today. Okay, but we've got to have it in our mind how it fits into the whole of the 5 ways. So our lead generation is our marketing, conversion is sales, number of transactions, average transaction value is really about the customer service, and actually account management, and then margins is the efficiencies and the profitability that we're going to build into the business. So okay, so this is what we're going to focus on with our discussions today. So as I start with all of the mastery workshops, we come back to the fundamental, which is our B times do equals have. So in order to have what I want to have, who do I need to be and what I want to do? So no different to any other area. The first thing we've really got to understand within sales is, what do I want to have in sales? What are my goals? What are my dreams? What do I actually want? Big picture stuff, but also, as we break it down into our 90-day plans, into our 90-day goals, our 90-day targets. So what are those targets? Once we know that, then we've got to ask, do we have the right knowledge, attitude, and skills to actually deliver that? So if I was a footballer and I said I want to score 10 goals this month, do I actually have the skills to actually go and score the goals? What practice do I need to do in order to get my skills up? And then if I don't actually shoot for target, if I don't go for it, if I don't put it into action, then nothing's going to happen. So am I actually doing the right activity, the right levels of activity in order to get the results that I want? So that's why the 3 are so fundamental to this, but we always start with the goals. So what I'd like you to think now is, again, you can put this in the chat box if you want to. If you don't want to put that, you can just write it down and then just share verbally as well. So what are the key goals for you? And let's say you can either go for the next quarter, the next sales goal for the quarter, or the sales goal for the next year. So give me some idea of what some of the goals are you're after around sales, around, again, that new business sales. So just write some ideas in there.
Sorry, Kevin, are you meaning a figure, or which is not from repeat clients?
Yes, not from repeat clients. So this is new business. So what new business goal do you want to have? And again, you choose the period. It could be 90 days, it could be a month, it could be 12 months. I'm not fussed. You choose. So what is your sales goal for the period, whatever period you choose? A lot of thinking going on. I wish I could see the pictures of Karina, Luke, and Leslie here. The sort of smoke will be coming out the ears, I reckon. So. And it's amazing, when you do this, and people ask you this, sometimes this is quite difficult, and you go, oh, I don't know what it is I really want, and that's why I think you've got to spend a good amount of time really getting clarity. So Damien, 12 to 15,000 the next 3 months from new clients to average projects. Cool, that's nice and clear. Yeah. Leslie, I can't figure how to turn it on. Is that a goal or is that the computer? Oh, the video. Okay. There's a button in the bottom left-hand corner that says start video, Leslie. Down by the microphone. So any other goals that we've got? Oh, Hang on a sec. Sorry, I've just got to email somebody hasn't got the link. So while you're writing that, I'll just send this. Okay, so to continue growth in a more structured way and increase net profit, okay, and annual sales goal 1.9 million. Okay, so Leslie can't find a video. Don't worry, Leslie, that's fine. You can always unmute yourself if you need to. So yeah, so it's growing without reducing the margin. Yeah, that's definitely the case there. So I'm just going to get myself back to find the screen. There we go. So anybody else? What's so Keith's got? So Leslie, what's your goal in there? I think you're any specific there. Karina, I think waiting for your goals as well. Good. Any others? Or we? Oh. This is the business goal, Leslie. So in your sales role, what's your goal? So what's your sales goal we're trying to achieve here? Cool. So Luke's saying 3 to 4.5 million. Leslie 1.9 million annual for business. Okay. Yeah. So what's your goal though, Leslie? Because you've got the big goal for the company, but you've got to be clear, because you're a sales sort of you're a sales guy, so you've got to be clear, right? My goal is this. Okay, the big goal, the company goal is that, but what's my specific goal here? Because if we don't have this clarity around the goal, then we're going to struggle to move towards it. Okay, if we can't visualize it, we can't materialize it. Cool. So excellent. So we've got a clear sales target there. So that's the first thing. If you found that easy and it came off, and I'm going to give you some examples of how we're going to improve this. Even the goal setting, we're going to improve this. But I want you to think first, how easy was that? So for Gary who's just joined us, we're just saying about setting the goals. So what are the goals that we need to set in order that we're focused on? So have a think about what your sales goal is for the next period, whatever that period is. 3 months, 12 months.
So that's turnover, right?
Well, that's the thing. What's your sales goal? Okay. But I'm going to sort of just go into a little bit more detail here. So the first thing I want you to think about, and I've taken this from one of you guys has come up with some of these figures, but I thought it was a good example of what can happen when we're setting sales goals. So here's a little example of 2019. The sales are 2.6 million, 300,000 profit. 2020, 3.2, 400,000. What do you think? Just unmute yourself. Don't write anything down. But what do you think the 2021 goals should be for this? If this was your business, what would you set the 2021 goals as?
To maintain 2020.
To maintain 2020. Okay, so you might say
pandemic.
So I'm thinking 2021 is from 1st of January. So 1st of January to 31st of December 2021.
Yeah, but given the turmoil that's still around, to stay still and not move backwards is probably a positive position.
Yep. So that's one way of saying it, is saying, look, we think we should stand still. Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah.
What else would you look at that and say, if this was my company, I'd be looking at what sort of goal would I be setting? Gary?
Well, because I do property maintenance, and I literally started the week before shutdown, the first time around in March. My initial ambitious goal was to have 60K of turnover this year from March to March.
Yeah.
That was pre-COVID, and now during COVID, I'll be quite happy to hit 45. And then for 2021 would be to hit that 60 back up to what the initial first year target was. But if I can manage to hit 45 this year with a pandemic, then I think 60 might be a bit low for next year.
That's great. So that's your person. So all I'm trying to look here is that this is an example. If this was your business, this business here, and you were setting a goal for it, based on what we've done for the last 2 years. So Damien's saying same as last year would be good. And I fully understand that. So what would you look at that and say I would set the goal at?
3.8.
3.8. Okay. Yeah. So a bit of growth in there, 10%, 15, 20% growth. Yeah. And this is how most people set their goals when they look at their numbers. If they've got a goal at all. Most people don't actually set goals, but if you do set a goal, you'll look at what's happened the last 2 years, and then you'll say, oh, okay, so we were 2.6, 3.2, so let's go 3.8. Yeah. And that is the wrong way of doing this. Okay, it's better than nothing. I 100% agree, but you do not set sales goals doing it that way. Okay, it's lazy. When I go into businesses and say, what sort of growth? Oh, 10% growth. Well, why 10%? Where did you come up with that figure? Yeah, I went to one company. They said, oh, we're going to go for 3.47% growth next year. I said, well, that's a pretty accurate figure. What did you sort of come up with that? And they said, oh, because it takes us up to 2.8 million, and that's 3.47%. And I just went, okay, I get it, but why isn't it 10%? Why isn't it 20%? Why isn't it 30%? Oh, that's too much. Well, is it? See, what happens is you don't do the maths. Okay, you don't know enough about your numbers to be setting proper goals. So the first thing we've got to do is break those numbers down. You've got to understand how your numbers are made up. So you would go back to the 5 ways, and we start to look in more detail. So for this company, we've got existing customers of 1.8 or 1.8 million. Last year before, they went up to 217. Yeah. So we know that we've got around about 2,000 customers. Of those, sort of only 23, about 20% actually buy from us. The average sale value we know is this. Repeat orders is about, this is a sort of a calculated figure, but it's something to go on, which gives us our sales here, our GP, our gross profit, our overheads, and our net profit. So suddenly we start doing this, and then we can start looking and say, right, okay, so if we know all these numbers, if we focused on strategies around each of these areas, what could we do? Irrespective, I take Damien's point 100%, COVID, uncertainties. But if we look at this and say, well, actually, coming into 2021, what could we do about our existing customers? What could we do about our new customers? What could we do about each of these areas? And we look at each one of those, then some interesting things can happen. So if we take this client now and say, right, if we can actually work on more strategies to increase the number of clients that we add, so our marketing to bring those customers in, and let's get rid of some of the dead wood that we've got, that would actually, while our customer base won't increase, we're not expecting an increase, we'll have a much better quality, set of customers on board. From that, we should be able to reactivate customers. So I reckon we can increase those customers up to, say, 650. Yeah, we can work on strategies to increase the average transaction value. We can work on strategies to increase the repeat orders. Yeah, we can definitely work on margins and improve those. That then would increase our sales up to, so our GP up to 2.5 million. Yeah, if we can work on ways to reduce overheads, yeah, then actually we can go from 380,000 to 1.5 million. Now, is that not better than going, we're going to increase by 5%, 10%? Because if we'd set that as a goal and we hadn't focused in that detail, what are we leaving behind? Now, even if we only achieve half of this, be half as good as we set out to be, we're still at twice what we did this year, and most people will be content with 5 or 10%. So when we set goals, we've got to understand how we're setting them, why are we setting them, what are we actually trying to do with this. So we've got to look in detail about, what is the existing business that we've currently got, how we can get new business on top of that. What are our units? What are average transaction value, the leads, the conversion rates? We've got to understand the difference between leading and lagging KPIs. Leading is activity-based, lagging is the results. Yeah. And if we've got a big business, which has got multiple departments, multiple companies, we have to break it down into individual targets. So going back to your point, Leslie, there's no point in you focusing on a 1.9 million pound sales target, okay, because that's not your target. Your target is a piece of that. Okay, if it's now relevant to you and you're in control of achieving that, it's going to be a much more focused goal for you, because goals should be the sort of the incentive, the power to drive you towards it. It should give you that gravitational pull to pull you towards where you want to go. And if we're not bought into the goal, if it's just a 10% increase or it's a number we don't really buy into, then it's a complete waste of time. It'll actually damage you. Okay, so we've got to know our numbers, we've got to break them down, and then we've got to have strategies around each part. Now, going back to where we were here, I agree. Some of these are marketing strategies, some of these are sales strategies, some of these are customer service, account management strategies, and some of these are operational. But the whole thing has to come together, and then from that we set the sales goal, and then we set, right, from that, what part of that do we need to have a better conversion rate? So for this, so as far as the sales, new business sales, is we're just really looking at that. I want 200 new clients spending £6,000 per order and buying at least, once, if not twice a year. So that's now my target within that. So everything has to come together, but we've got to see the big picture to start with. So that's really, it's the first thing is some of your goals, I could see were quite clear, quite specific. Yeah, but you've got to get them smartified. Yeah, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in a time frame, and they've got to be inspiring and emotional. If you don't feel something positive about your goals, then they're not helping you. Okay, so it's got to be relative and realistic to where you are. So one of the first things I need you to do after this is really sit down, look at where you are currently, where you want to get to, and what the specific goals is you're actually achieving. And if you buy into it, there should be then that energy to actually go and actually deliver it. Because if that's not there, and it's almost saying, well, it's okay to fail. It's okay not to do what I need to do. And part of sales is pushing yourself outside that comfort zone, pushing yourself to levels that you've never achieved. Same as a sports person. The sports person going into the Olympics, is generally going to win gold. Now, they know there's for a lot of people, they're outsiders to win it. but that's what they're focused on, is to win that gold. They are so clear in their mind what success looks like. Yeah, then they can actually play the game. If you go into the Olympics and you're not really bothered whether I win the Olympics or not, yeah, then, well, guess what? You're never going to win it, and you probably won't even compete. Okay, so really think about getting clarity around where you are with the goals. So any questions on that? Anything that no, all makes sense? Cool. So once we've got real clarity around the goals and what we're actually trying to do, then we can start working on the be and the do. So who do I need to be and what do I need to do? Now, our B is our beliefs. Now, I know some of you guys are, professional salespeople. You're employed to do a sales role. You've had years of experience in sales, and therefore your beliefs are, if I said to you, what are you? I'm a salesman or a saleswoman. Okay. There's some of us, though, are not natural salespeople. We started our business not to sell. Okay, we have to do sales because we run our own businesses, but we never really, if we look in the mirror, we never really see ourselves as being true salespeople. So the first thing to ask yourself, is to look in that mirror and say, am I a salesperson? And if the answer to that is no, I'm not a salesperson, then you've got to look at it and say, well, are the skills, that I was born with good enough to sell? Or are all salespeople, so in effect, are salespeople naturally born salespeople? You're just born that way. Okay, and that's why you're good at what you do, because and I was never born a salesperson, and therefore that's why I don't really enjoy sales and I'm not particularly good at it. So we've got to look at ourselves and say, look, every child, so everybody here I think has got children or had children or once was a child. So as kids, are kids generally good salespeople? Can they sell you onto what they want you to do? Yeah, they're bloody good at it. They're naturally good at it. So every one of us has the natural ability to do it. What happens over time, though, is we don't practice it more and more and more. We lose that skill because we get stuck in doing the day job, learning the technical skills. The more technically focused you are, the more you'll generally move away from your natural sales ability. But we all have a natural sales ability. But like a lot of things, if we don't practice it, if we don't improve it, then it gets stale and we get left behind. And we have to understand that there's these 4 stages of learning. So if we're learning anything, but sales in particular, there's 4 phases that we go through. The first phase is we're this unconscious incompetent. So we don't know what we don't know. So in sales, that would be like, I've started my business, so when I started coaching, I was an accountant. I'd spent all of my life, I'd never done any sales at all. I'd never worked in a shop. I'd never worked in a bar. I think I'd done a few trade stands with my dad, when he used to sort of go around selling bus spotting stuff as he did in his spare time. But I'd never sold anything to anybody. And then I came into coaching and I said, look, I really want to be a coach, but I don't want to do that sales stuff. I'm not really a sales. I don't see myself as a salesperson. I was an accountant beforehand. And I said, that's fine. That's great. You can come into this, but you won't last 12 months. When you start your business, if you can't sell stuff, you will not have a business. So there was this unconscious incompetence when I started. Yeah. And then suddenly when you start the business and you move forward, suddenly you move into this conscious incompetent phase. Yeah. Now I know I'm a crap salesperson. And how did I first know I was a crap salesperson? When I just started my business.
When you tried to sell and didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. It's quite good. Sales is good because you get instant feedback. I mean, it's not always instant, but you get feedback pretty darn quick. If your conversion rate, yeah, is lower than 50%, yeah, you're a crap salesperson. Okay, you know, you've got a long way to go to get it up there. So I got some instant feedback that actually I didn't even need to be told that I was a crap. I felt I was crap. You know, I was going into those first few meetings unprepared. You know, I was, you know, I was unsure. I lacked confidence. All of those negative things that were potentially going to hold me back. So when you're in this conscious incompetent phase, so Karina, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hi, sorry, Kevin. I just
Oh.
had to go. The puppy did a massive wee and poo, and I just had to clean it up right behind me. So I missed the last bit. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's made my day. That is.
I'm so sorry. It's just got very active.
So I was just saying that when we move out from this unconscious incompetence into a conscious incompetent, how do we feel when we're there? So I now know I can't do what I should be doing. Yeah, my results are not good. I feel, you know, it's pretty obvious that I'm not where I need to be. So how do I feel when I'm in this box?
Not very good, I assume.
Not very good. Yeah.
No.
Pretty poor. Now I've got a choice, haven't I? If I stay in this box and I'm not particularly good, yeah, I can go. Can I go back into unconscious incompetent? So my sales are not hitting the targets. Yeah. And I'm feeling pretty bad. Can I now go back into where I was before, into an unconscious incompetent state? So, you know, in other words, you know, not know that I'm a bad salesperson.
Yeah, you can go back. I see.
Okay.
No.
Damien?
Sorry, one of my dogs is talking to me.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling him to be quiet.
We got some pet problems here.
Yeah.
So the key is I can't go back, can I? I can't unlearn something. I can't, you know, if I know that I'm not very good, the only thing I can do is, if you remember back into, you know, what we're talking action coach, the above the line, below the line, I can go below the line back into blame, excuses and denial. So this is what happens with people here is, yeah, I can't move forwards. Yeah, I can't go backwards, and therefore I have to blame and make excuses. Yeah, or even deny that I had a goal to achieve. And this becomes a pretty bad place to be. And I see it with, you know, people that are running sales teams. The salespeople aren't performing. Yeah, suddenly we all get all these blame excuses. I can't sell because of COVID. I can't sell because of, you know, no one's there. I can't do this. I can't do that. There's a lot of blame and excuses that come out. And certainly, you know, for ourselves, when we're running our own businesses, be careful, because you'll start to hear this in your own language as well. Okay, if no one's challenging around it, then it generally goes, you know, it goes amiss. But certainly when I'm working with some clients, is we get a lot of this, and so we've got to refocus this and say, look, the only way that we can move from here into the next level, which is conscious competence, is we have to learn. So the same thing with driving is, if you can't drive and you know you can't drive, well, you've got to go and get lessons. So this bit here, this conscious competence, is I'm learning and I'm improving, and this is hard work. Okay, because I'm still making mistakes. So remember when you're driving, you were sort of, you know, putting along, and it was, you know, mirror signal, clutch, pedal maneuver, and it was all a bit erratic, and it is really hard work, this part here. So when we're learning the sales function, we've got to be prepared to put in the hard work to actually move on to a point where we are unconsciously competent. So now we're doing this really without thinking. The problem is here, because this is hard work, if we don't push through and we don't continue to learn, we go back here. And if we go back into this box, we have to go back into blame, excuses, and denial. So we've got to keep this process of moving around here. Now, when I become unconsciously competent, so now I'm a natural salesperson, what's the danger if I stay in this box? Luke, what do you see for people that sort of feel that they're naturally good salespeople and that's where they stay?
Normally, some of the other skills they're not willing to learn, like organisation and how to manage. So they just want to sell. I'm not worried about the bit that comes behind it.
Yeah. So they can stop growing, you know. So they get a bit stagnant. Yeah. Oops. They stagnate. Yeah. If you stagnate, you actually go backwards. And what can happen is, because of the way that sales is done, is they might have built up a really good client base who are just ordering for the sake of ordering. Yeah. And actually, they're actually not particularly good salespeople anymore. They're good order takers, but they're not actually selling anymore. They're not actually closing new business. So what happens is they stagnate, they get bored, yeah, and they start making mistakes. So we've got to understand that this cycle here never stops. Okay, it's always going. So even when you come into this phase, the best people in any sport, you know, in any function in business, are the ones that love to keep learning, keep moving forwards. So what's next? What's next? Where can I get that next nugget from? How can I improve what I'm already doing? That's what we're looking for. Okay, so in our sales, you know, this should, you know, the skill of sales should never stop. It should go on and on and on and on. But when we look at it and we look at the hours to master a skill, you know, it's that sort of adage of 10,000 hours. So if we're doing, you know, sales for 8 hours a day, yeah, and we're constantly doing sales, it's going to take us 5 years to master the sales skills. But for most of us, you know, for those that are running their business, you're probably only spending 2 hours a day on sales because you're doing the other stuff. So it's going to take you guys about 12 years to master it. So, and this is that sort of frustration. That's if you're doing the right level of learning. If you're just doing the same thing over and over again, you're never going to master it. You know, if you compare it to sort of, you know, people that play golf or, you know, tennis or football or any sport, you know, if they just came in and did 1 year's learning and then used that for the rest of the time they played that sport, they'd be nowhere. So if we are going to be good salespeople, and if we are dedicated to be good salespeople, then we've got to have this continual learning. You've got to keep pushing yourself, learning new things, because the world changes as well. You know, the environment's changed in the last 12 months so much that we need to understand, yeah, how we get this back, how we keep at the top of our game. So if I was running a sales team, yeah, one of the questions I'd be asking them is, right, what have you read this week? What have you read this month? I want a book club running of, you know, where the sales guys are coming in and talking about what they've learned and what they're going to use in their sales pitches. How are they going to improve their sales pitches? How are they going to improve their conversion rates? When it's us as as business owners doing it, and this is only one part of the job that we're doing. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to do that all the time, but I should certainly have one sales book going every quarter. You know, attending a sales workshop like this one at least, you know, a couple of times a year. Because if we're not learning this stuff, then there is no way we're going to get better. So that's really the first part of the B, is continual development. Sales is a skill. You're born with the natural ability, but if you don't develop that, then you become stagnant and you'll never achieve the success that you're after.
I don't.
The second thing to think about is the type of person you are. Now, for some of you guys, we've done the DISC profiles already. For others, we've got that to do. But it's not an overcomplicated system that we use. So I'm just going to mute you, Damien. So you've got to think, what type of profile you are is the type of salesperson you are. Okay, that's your natural sales behavior profile. So if you remember, these are task-focused, outgoing individuals. Yeah, our I's are our people, outgoing people. Then we've got our S's, who are our reserved people focus, and C's are our task-focused reserves. So D's are dominant, I's are influencers, S's are supporters, C's are our cautious, calculating people. So another way to look at it is powerful, popular, peaceful, perfect. So each one of these sells in a particular way. So you have a natural sales style. Now, that generally works for people who are the same style as you. If they're different styles, then you may struggle to sell to a different type of person, because the way you communicate will be different to the way they communicate. And we have a thing called the platinum rule within DISC. Yeah, most people say, treat others as you would like treated yourself. Do unto others as you would have undone to yourself. Well, it's not really. It's treat others how they like to have done unto themselves. If you can treat them as the way they like to be communicated to, you're going to have a much better success rate. So if we look at D's, high D's, task focused, outgoing, powerful, demanding people, we have to communicate to these people very, very clearly, succinctly. Yeah, too much, detail will ruin the sale there. So I've just had a client that I've referred an accountant to. Yeah, the accountant's done them a proposal, which was really long-winded, wordy, bored. I read it and it even bored me, and I was an accountant. And this guy said, no, I'm going somewhere else. Somebody who's communicated this in a much clearer way, concise way that I understand. So they've lost probably around about a 12 grand sale because they worded their pitch to him in the wrong way. It was just sent as a cold email, off you go. They didn't understand what profile he was and provide the communication in the style that he was looking for. Okay, so if we look at this and say, right, the natural style of each one of these. So I'm going to go through 4 types of salespeople, and I want you to sort of tell me which profile it is, whether it's a D, an I, an S, or a C. So just write those down if you want to. So D's are the powerful people, I's are popular, S's are peaceful, and C's are the perfect people. So you tell me which one it is. So type 1, the order taker. So somebody who just waits passively for somebody to ask if they can buy. Okay, so let's use the chat box here and just put in what you think the profile is, a D, I, S, or C. So we've got S, yeah, Luke CS, Leslie C. Cool, yeah, so you're definitely in the right quadrants. So the order taker, is somebody who's responsive. They'll pick up the phone. They're very polite. They like to support other people. So they're generally the S type people. Okay, but they'll wait for somebody to take action and then they'll support them. They're not proactive in their sales. So S's are very good in account management. Where the inquiries are coming in, and they can just take those and then process them. They're very good. They're not necessarily very good at proactive sales. So the product bore. So talks about nothing more than the product. So gets into a lot of detail about the product. You know, go like I just said, the one that lost the client, you know, was actually giving far too much information away that the prospect actually didn't need to understand, didn't need that. Okay, so C's, yeah, good. C's, yeah, that's pretty easy, that one. Okay, so the C will just go straight into detail and potentially bore the actual prospect away. What about the overseller? So promises the world. It's all, it talks a lot, you know, says how wonderful the product is, but you know, can over exaggerate things a lot. So eyes, yep, cool. Yeah. So we can see there that that's pretty much the high I will sort of go into that sort of overdrive situation. And then the pushy seller, you know, so beats you into a sale. And then this is where I would say a lot of people have the stereotype of a salesperson, you know, somebody who is making me buy something I don't want to buy. And, you know, it can be why these people are actually quite good at sales, is because they actually push the people to the sale and get it done. But what they can do is leave a bad taste in people's mouths so they don't buy again. You know, buy once but won't come back. So yeah, so this is really to have the, you know, these are the high D's that drive things forwards. Now, if I'm a pushy seller selling to, you know, an S, you know, a stable, steady supporter type person, how am I going to feel when I get a pushy seller? Yeah, I'm going to feel, you know, railroaded. I'm going to feel sort of, you know, sort of intimidated perhaps. But if I'm a fellow high D, yeah, if I'm a high D person, I've got a high D selling to me, and they sort of push me towards something, and I'm not going to feel I'm being pushed. I'm just going to feel that we're getting to a decision and moving on quite quickly. If I'm an I, yeah, if it's done in a nice way, yeah, great, because yeah, I'd rather get on and, you know, and do other things. With a C, as long as I've got the detail, you know, then the pushy seller, that might help me. So we've got to understand that, you know, there is a fifth type. The type that we want to be is what I would call the problem solver. So somebody who's able to professionally help people to buy. Okay, so professionally help people to buy. So we've got a bit of pushiness into us because we want to close the sale. We've got a bit of I in us because we want to be sort of, you know, liked and, you know, feel that there's some engagement and empathy with the client. We want to feel that we're supporting the client and it's their decision and we're just there to help them. And we want to feel the ability to give them the appropriate amount of detail. So to me, there is no perfect profile because very few of us, or I don't think anyone has, you know, all of the DISC profiles in their profile. No one is really what we call high DISC. Few people claim to be, but they're not actually naturally that. They're just good at adapting to the certain situation. So if you're a high C, yeah, and you want to be a better salesman, you've got to know that you do the detail well, but you're going to have to work on, you know, that decisiveness, being a bit more inspiring when you're dealing with clients and help them build some relationships and help them through. If you're a D, you need to toe down that sort of pushiness, perhaps do a little bit more supporting with clients. Yeah, again, build that relationship and go into detail when it's needed. So this is the skill set we've got to have. And one of the key things to change in us, you know, for anything we're doing is that awareness. You know, we've got to, if we have the awareness and we know our weakness, then we can work on the other areas. So when I was, you know, when I came into coaching, it was very much, I knew I was a high C. So my two predominants are C and S. Okay, so I can do detail till the cows come home. I like supporting people. My weakness was always the D and the I. So I've had to work, on those two in order to actually improve my sales sort of technique. Now, am I naturally good at it? There's other people out there that are far better than me in those, but that willingness to continue to learn and adapt is key to making it happen. And when I lose a sale, I always go back and think, right, well, where did I let myself down there? Was I too dominant? Was I too inspiring? Was I too supportive? Was I too detailed? Or was I not enough in one of those? Okay, so you should always, once you've got that self-awareness, you should be seeing where we're strong, where we're weak, and then work on those areas to actually improve. Okay, and if you know what area it is, the DISC profile is a great place to start because it lists a lot of strengths and weaknesses of each profile. But that's when you'd go to the books and other things. So for me, because I like systems, I came back to thought that if I had a better system to follow, then I could be a better salesperson. Okay, so that was my sort of formula for actual success, was to actually get the system right that I could use, and then I could work that system rather than seeing myself as an actual salesperson. Okay, so that's really around the B. So who do I need to be? So what do I need to learn? Where are my strengths? How do I need to adapt my profile, my behavioral profile when I'm with clients? Monitoring the successes, so learn from the successes, but learn from the failures. Why did I lose that sale? Next time I'm going to make sure that I don't lose that sale. And often this is where we need feedback, either from the prospect or maybe from one of our team members. Maybe that's where you ask me as the coach to give you some feedback on that. But if we don't have that feedback, then there's no way we can actually improve. So what do we need to do now? So that's who do we need to be. Now, what do we need to do to actually improve our conversion rate? Well, the first thing is, for a lot of us, is we've got to make time to sell. The reason we're not selling enough is because we're not dedicating enough time to it, because we're doing 101 other jobs. So if you haven't been onto the time management workshop, then you need to get onto that so that you can learn how to prioritize your time and create a default diary to put time in to do the sales. So as you see here, set specific time to do sales meetings. When a prospect or client sort of phones you up, look, I can see you on Thursday afternoon or Monday afternoon. That's all I've got. Okay, it means that they feel there's some scarcity. Okay, so they go, oh, blimey, he's busy, so he must be good. So they can fit you in. But more importantly, where you've got a lot of things to do, it means that you can actually dedicate time to doing it, and set the time to periods where your energy levels are at the right level for what you're trying to do. If all your sales meetings are at 4 o'clock on an afternoon and you're knackered and fed up by 4 o'clock, you're not going to be a great salesperson. Okay, so really think about your biorhythms and when is the best time, when you're at the top of your game to actually make those conversions. Okay, so build it into your diary. So once we've got the time, now we're moving into where we're looking for our clients. So we get a lead that comes in, an inquiry that comes in. The first thing we've got to understand really is, where are these people? So if we're marketing, because sales, while sales and marketing are separate, they obviously blend into each other. So are we looking at somebody who's ready to buy? Now, if I'm dealing with somebody who's definitely ready to buy, so imagine so Damien, you own a sweet shop, okay, and I've come into your sweet shop and I want a Mars bar. If you take me through a sales process in order to sell me a Mars bar that takes about 5 minutes, how am I going to feel?
Not very good about it.
Not very good about it. Okay, so if they're ready to buy, then sell them what they need. Don't mess around with it. Okay, just get in there, get the sale done, move on. if they're down here and they're just wasting your time, get rid of them. Okay, all of us are quite nice people, yeah, and therefore, yeah, I can count. Well, I can't count. I've lost count the number of people that have been in my sales process that have been down here that I should have said, look, piss off. You're wasting my time. You're never going to buy from me. You've no real interest. It's just that you don't have a life that's exciting enough, and you think that talking to me is more exciting than what you would be doing otherwise. So we've got to learn how to dequalify people as quickly as we possibly can, because these will just suck up so much time. Then we've got these people that might be interested and sort of at the early stage of the process. So the first thing we've got to do is understand where they are in this pipeline. Yeah, so you'll have a few percentage that will be up here. You'll have a few that are down here. But the majority are going to be somewhere in here. And so our job when we're coming to sales is to move them through this along here. So from this sort of cold, sort of cold, tepid, warm, hot. Okay. Now, if they come in hot, don't take them through this process if they're already hot, because you'll just cool them off. If they're down here at cold, don't try and sell to them because they're not ready. So we've got to understand, for all, each of you has got different businesses. You're going to get leads at different levels. Some of you, like Karina and Alex, where you're doing reactive. Most of your leads are going to come in here. Okay, because these are need-based sales. My boiler's broken. I need a new boiler. Okay, for people that are selling high, Damien. So you're selling more of a want-based, where they've already got potential supplier. So you're going to have more leads down here. Okay, so this is more of a want thing. They don't need your services because it's all already being serviced somewhere. So you're going to have more that are down here. So you're going to have to work harder to get them through here, but the ticket value at the end is going to be higher than somebody like Alex and Karina, who are based in need. Once you've sold it, then that's it. You've got to move on to the next one. So you've got to understand what you're selling, what your process is, to actually know where you're going to sort of move them along. And within this, and I'll come back to it, is you've got to keep track of this. Okay, so you've got to keep track somehow. So, and this is where CRM systems come in, that by setting these stages up, you know where they all are. Because what we're doing with our marketing is we're filling the funnel. Yeah. So we're constantly filling the funnel, and then the sales process is moving them down the funnel eventually till they pop out there. And if we don't have a way of tracking this, then a lot of people are going to get missed. We're not doing enough, or we're doing too much. Okay, so we've really got to understand where they are and what they need as they go through. Then we look at the process. Now, because I wasn't, I had the belief when I started I wasn't a natural salesperson. I'm a systems. I like systems. I'm a logical thinker. So for me, it was about looking at, reading all of these books and coming up with a system that worked for me. Now, if you've ever read this book, we had this as our book club book, I think earlier in the year. It's a very detailed book. It was written by this guy, Tom Hopkins. It's not the easiest of reads. It's a very 1980s book, very small print, where I think they were paid per word they wrote. So they just, rather than write something in 3 words, they wrote it in 4 pages. But his concept I really liked. And I've read a lot of books since about it, and they basically are just this concept written in a different way. Okay, this 4-stage process to move people along this process here. Okay, along this line, there's 4 key stages. The first one is we have to build trust. So people are not going to buy from us unless they trust us. Now, that's us as an individual, yeah, and us as the company. So I could trust the company, but if I'm sold to by somebody I don't trust, I'm not going to sell. So we've got to get that balance between, the salesperson and the company must be there. And one of the key things to that is credibility and competency. So there's ways that we need to work. And if we don't build at this level, then we lose the sale before we've even gone into actually giving a proposal. Once we've identified the trust, then we move into the need. So what do I need? Also, what are your needs as the prospect? Why are you coming in to buy from me? And if I don't get the understanding of need, then the big danger here is I sell you something you don't actually need, in which case you're not going to buy it. Then once I know the need, then I can provide the solution and I can show you how I can help. And then I need to close the sale and actually move you along and actually hurry you to a point where you make a decision. Either you're going to buy this or you're not going to buy this. What I don't want is, I think about that. And then I lose you. And then I'm taking days, if not weeks, if not months, keep chasing you up. So any salesman worth their salt would rather not have a sale, than a sale that drags on for months and months and months. If there's a legitimate reason, that's fine, and I'll need to nurture you. But a lot of pipelines that I look at with salespeople are just full of, hope. I hope they'll come back. And it's because we didn't do the right things up front that we didn't get to a point where we could close them. So the book, and if anybody wants, I've got a summarized version of the book which looks at each of these 4 areas in detail, which I'm quite happy to send out. So just send me an email and I'll send you that. But these 4 areas, that we're basically lowering the resistance. So we're lowering their resistance to buy, and then we're increasing their acceptance of what we're offering. So we build the trust through being proper. So we've, and the propriety is, do we look the part? Does the environment in which we're working look the part? So if I was selling a £250,000 Ferrari, okay, out of a cheap second-hand car lot, with vicious dogs running around. Is that proper? Am I going to build trust to somebody looking to buy that? What's the first thing they're going to think if I'm selling a £250,000 car out of a backstreet garage? They're going to think it's knocked off, isn't it? It's an arse a daily. There's something wrong with it. So if I sell it out of a top class showroom, then the propriety is right. It's the right match to what I'm trying to sell. So that is not only the environment, but that's us as people. Am I dressed the right way? Do I look the part? Okay. Do I if I'm selling a £100,000 product, do I look like a £100,000 salesperson? If I'm selling a 50 quid part and I look like a £100,000 salesperson, again, there'll be an incongruence there. Okay, so we've got to really look at that and watch it. So just guys, if you email me if you want that PDF, because the chat disappears after this, and by the time I wake up tomorrow, I won't remember. So just ping me an email and I'll send it to you. So we've got to build this trust. Then we go into the need identification. So we're breaking down into the need, and then we build up the help and the hurry. So I'm going to go through a few of the key things with this over the next few slides. So one of the first things within trust is we've got to build some empathy. Okay, people buy from people like themselves. So that's why the DISC profile is so important, that D's like D's, I's like I's, S's like S's, C's like C's. So if we can adapt our profile to suit the people we're selling to, then we're going to build that empathy quite quickly. We're going to build that trust quite quickly. If we're seen to really care and understand, want to know about the individual, then we're going to build that empathy as well. And one of the key things, and I'll come on to this when we look at the need as well, there's the old adage, God gave us 2 eyes and 1 mouth, use them in that ratio. Okay, use your eyes, your ears, and your mouth in that ratio. So too many salespeople go straight into the sales and and just sit there and basically verbal diarrhea over the client. Yeah, we've got to understand and ask questions to really understand who we're dealing with. So some of us are really good at this. EQ, emotional intelligence, is a skill set. Again, females are generally better at it than blokes. It's just genetically that way. But our EQ continues to develop well up into our 60s. So we have the ability to learn emotional intelligence and empathy skills if we work at it really hard. Okay, so again, look in the mirror, get feedback. Is that an area you need to work on? Then we look at sort of our communication. Now, this is quite interesting in the sort of environment in which we are at the moment. The way we communicate, we use words, we have sort of our tonality, the voice, and we have our body language. And while this study is, it was taken out of context when we look at the percentages, but the essence of it, I still think rings true. That when we're listening to people, the actual words that we use is only about 7% of communication. The tonality is around about 38%, and the majority of communication is actually in body language. So when we're building this trust, if we're relying just on the words, i.e. email, how much trust are we going to build out of email? Not a lot. Okay, now you're more likely to lose trust through email, a bad word or a bad sentence or something that's taken out of context, but to actually build it is quite difficult. Our voice, our tonality, would be where we're doing it over the phone. So that will help us. So if we can pick up the phone and speak to somebody, then we're going to gain a little bit more trust with them, because they're going to hear what we're, hear the words that we're talking. Ideally, though, we need to have some body language in there. So we need to have that face-to-face, or because we're socially distanced and there's a lot of online stuff now, make it a Zoom call. Okay, if you can get to a point where you can actually see the body language, then really make that happen. And the one thing I've learned over the last sort of few weeks is, if you are doing it, don't use one of these backgrounds, because you'll see your body language, your hands disappear. So if you are a sort of, you like to use your hands, again, make it the actual background in which you're working. Okay, but make sure that background is compliant to what you're selling. Don't do it in your bedroom. If you are trying to sell a high ticket item, make the background proper to what you're actually trying to sell. Because these, even at a subconscious level, you might say, oh well, I was just doing it in the car. People are just going to relate, oh, he's in the car, so that means, has he got an office? Is he just sort of winging it? Okay, really think that these subtle subconscious clues are being picked up all the time. Whether they won't even recognize they are picking them up, but they will pick them up. Okay, so be very clear. If we're building trust, use wherever you can all 3 forms. Because that's going to give you the best chance of success. It'll take a bit more time, but if it's a bigger ticket item, you'll need to do that. If it's a low ticket item, then it probably doesn't matter as much. So really understand that, you know, how you're communicating your sales and what you know, at those different levels to build that trust. The second thing is authority. You've got to have that sense of credibility, competency when you're selling that's commensurate with what you're trying to sell. So you've got to get that authority across to that individual. Now, there's many ways of doing this. You know, some of this could be past examples of work you've done, people that you've worked for, but you've got to get to them an understanding of who they're dealing with. It's not just a fly-by-night operator here. And this comes back into your sort of process that sometimes going straight into trust building in a one-to-one meeting is too early. You know, is there some information they need to be sent before you see them? Can they go to your website and look at certain things on the website before you move into the face-to-face phase? Again, you want to get rid of the tire kickers. So maybe it's part of that process is to remove the people that aren't going to proceed any further. So be really clear, your LinkedIn profile. People now buy, when they buy things, they're far more clued up than you give them credit for. You know, many people, if they're going to buy a boiler, will have already done a little bit of research because it's so easy. Just Googling prices of boilers. You know, which is the best boiler? Right, well, make sure he's not going to sell me one of those crap ones. Okay, so make sure that the search, if they are doing a bit of search on you, that whatever they search for, they're going to find, you know, some substance there. There's nothing worse than, you know, when you've had it, somebody sort of, you know, you Google them and their website is half built or doesn't exist, or you go to their LinkedIn profile and you think, really, I don't really understand what you do or, you know, who you are. You're not helping me build that competency. and they did a study on this that they took some patients in a hospital, and they had doctors that would come in and give a diagnosis, and they split the doctors. You know, some doctors with a white coat, the pens, the stethoscope, yeah, and a set of glasses and a clipboard, and another set of doctors equally, you know, they were the same level, just wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a baggy jumper. And they came in and they did the diagnosis, yeah, and then they gave the diagnosis, and then they asked the patients which one did they trust the diagnosis the most. 90% said they trusted the doctor wearing the white coat and the stethoscope. Okay, same. It was the same sort of diagnosis, the same information. It was all quality. It was just they trusted the person that was wearing the white coat and the stethoscope. So if that is needed for your profession, yeah, and what you do, then wear it, because it will improve your conversion rate. Okay, they've had it with, you know, salespeople in cars. You know, the car you drive. You know, you turn up in a clapped out car trying to sell things, you know, and the person sees that, then they're going to go, why would I buy from you? I've had it with IFAs. You know, there's a fine balance, you know, with IFAs, so wealth managers. If your wealth manager turned up in a 20-year-old clapped out, Skoda, how are you going to trust them with your money? Yeah, if they turned up in a, you know, £1 million Lamborghini, all blinged up, yeah, how much trust are you going to put into them? Which one would you rather have? Well, I think I'd rather have the £1 million Lamborghini driver, but yeah, I might be worried that he's going to nick all my money and buy another car. So it's got to be right for what the image you're trying to portray. Okay, these things do count, because buying decisions are based on a combination of logic and emotion. All buying decisions are based on logic and emotion. Now, what percentage, so if it was 100% was the buying decision, what percentage split would you say was logic over emotion? So if you were to put a percentage to it, what would you put? So for logic, so just type in the chat box, what would be a percentage that decisions were? So 50% logic, yep. Any advances on 50% logic? 40% logic, 40% logic, 30% logic. Cool. Keep going. 20% logic. Well done, Brian. Excellent. So 20% logic, 80% emotion. Now, this is it's a generalization, but this is the case for predominantly everything that we buy. Yeah, there are extremes that go against this. Now, there was one buying decision that is pretty much mostly logic. Okay, any idea what sort of purchase would be more towards 100% logic in our buying decision? Technical products. What do you mean by technical products, Luke?
Washing machine.
A washing machine. That's an
emotional over buying a washing machine. I just want one that serves the purpose.
That's a good point, but I bet you there'll still be an emotion in it. I bet you there will still be an emotion. Tires, oh, for some people, yes. Again, different people. They're certainly not. So if you had a cheap set of tires that against ones that were slightly more expensive but were guaranteed to last longer, protect your family, that look cool, then there would still be a decision there. The one that logic comes into is where it's being forced upon you to buy. You have to buy it. There's no real choice whether you buy it or not. So tires can be that. My tires have worn out. I have to buy some tires. I don't really care. Therefore, I'll buy any old tires. Same with you with the washing machine, Gary. I don't really care about washing, but my last one's broken out and I have to have a washing machine. Okay. The classic one I use is insurance, car insurance. Okay. You have to have car insurance. Therefore, when you come to buy it, how emotional is it when you actually buy it? It's not. That's why the compare the market sites all sprung up, because you can go to a compare the market site, type in your car registration, it gives you a list of all the prices, and you go for the cheapest one. As long as it feels, the competency and the trust is there. If it came up with dodgy Fred's insurance company, we only pay out, in the case of lightning strikes, you probably won't go for those guys, but the majority will be based on a price decision because it's forced upon you. You can't choose whether you have car insurance or you don't have car insurance, therefore you'll go for that. So a necessity driven decision is going to be more logic than emotion. Okay. On the other extreme, luxury purchases are going to be more emotion driven than logic. So you'll go above the 80% on some of those. But the rough balance for most of you, if you think that it's 20% logic, 80% emotion, therefore, when we're doing our sales pitch, which one should we focus more upon? The emotion. That's why trust is so important, because trust is an emotional decision, not a logical decision. It's the subtleties, it's the all of the things that are going on in our relationship that are key to this. So if we're not making the sale, if we're losing out on it, then the question we've got to ask is, have I gone logical in my proposals, in my communication? Where's the emotion in this? Have I really built a connection with this person? Is the decision around the emotion? And that then leads us towards that, moving from that trust building into the need identification, because people will only change, they'll only buy something, so change their current state to a new state, if this formula stacks up, our formula for change. So dissatisfaction, So how dissatisfied am I with the current status quo? My vision of the future, what life will be like once I've actually made the change. My first steps is what do I need to do? And my resistance is my natural resistance to move away from the status quo. So if we go back to you, Gary, and your washing machine, yeah, if your washing machine has just broken down, yeah, your dissatisfaction is quite high, isn't it? Yeah, I can't do my washing. So my resistance then, so my dissatisfaction is quite high. My resistance to buy one might be a pricing, well, can I afford it? Do I want to invest in it? So do I really need a big vision of what this wonderful new washing machine is going to be like? Not really, because the dissatisfaction already overstands the resistance. Therefore, it's going to be more of a logical decision and be more of a price-driven decision to buy from it. If I had a perfectly working washing machine, yeah, which was fine, and the other half said, you know, actually, I want a better washing machine. Now the dissatisfaction isn't that low. Therefore, I've got to work on how is this going to make my life better. And when it's a partner buying things, generally it's making my life better because it keeps my partner happy. I don't really care about washing machines. You know, it's more about the vision of actually keeping the other party happy with this. So we've got to look at this and say, you know, what is it that they actually need? You know, what is the need for this client? Now, the only way that we can really identify somebody's need is to do what? What do we need to do when somebody comes in to really identify their need?
Ask them and listen.
Ask and listen. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Ask. So we've got to ask a question and they'll give us an answer. Therefore, we ask another question and we dig deeper and we get another answer. So we keep asking these questions and getting answers. Okay. Now, a little example I use for this is, yeah, imagine that you're I'm a really good, you know, I'm the world's best doctor in shoulder issues. And Karina, you've just come into my surgery with a shoulder issue. Okay, I am so good at this. I've been doing it for years. I can diagnose you within seconds of seeing you. Okay, so you've walked through the door and I've said, Karina, yeah, great to see you. I know exactly what's wrong with you. Take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks and you'll be fine. Off you go. How do you feel, Karina? How do you feel your diagnosis has gone?
Not very personal.
Yeah.
I would question it a bit more. But yeah, I would not feel like taken care of, I would say.
So how much trust have you got in me at the moment?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. How much do I really know what your problem is in your mind?
Mine were not a lot.
No, but
No,
I'm the
Yeah,
world's
question.
best. I do this all day, and I know 100% that's your problem. If you take 3 of these 3 times a day for 3 weeks, you'll be fine. And that's what a lot of us do in our sales. It's because we know our business, because we live it and breathe it. We know what their problem is. Therefore, just buy this, do that, and you'll be fine. But that's not building trust. And the need identification is perhaps it is for us. Perhaps I do need to understand your need. But a lot of cases, I know what your need is. You know, Brian, you know they need a frame. Gary, you know they need some work done. Yeah, our years of experience lead us to that. But the need identification is not always about what we need to know. It's they need to know that we know. So we ask questions, not necessarily to gain knowledge for ourselves. It's to gain their trust and for them to understand we've taken them through the process. So if I take Karina's situation now, and she comes into my doctor's surgery and I say, Karina, you know, great to see you, you know, take a seat. Tell me about your shoulder problem. and she tells me about her shoulder problem. Oh, that must be terrible. What's it stopping you doing, Karina? You know, oh, I can't do the washing. I can't play sport. I can't, I can't go on holiday. Oh, that must be terrible. So you want a cure for that, do you? Yeah, I really want a cure for that. But let me just sort of have a feel. So what's the one thing doctors are really good at doing when you've got something that hurts?
They hurt you.
They put their finger on it, don't they? Does that hurt? No. Does that hurt? No. Does that hurt? Yes, that hurts. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, look, take 3 of those 3 times a week, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. You'll be fine. Thank you, doctor. Now, do you trust me? Now, do you respect me? Now, are you going to do what I've asked you to do? 100%. So this questioning is, and this is where the mistake that I've seen a lot of people do. They go, well, why do I have to ask these questions? Because I know what the problem is. No, it's not for you. The questions you ask is for them. They have to go through the process so that they understand that you understand, that empathy is built. And at some point, as you dig deep in this, they will then, when you hit an emotion, they will then ask the question, and you'll give the answer. So in Karina's case, I'm saying, does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Yeah, that hurts. Oh God, how can I get rid of that, doctor? We'll take 3 of these 3 times a day for 3 weeks. You'd be fine. Okay, at that point there, when they ask the question, is that that you've got the sale then. For professional services, oh, that sounds great. How can we get started with that? How can we do that? You're looking for them to ask you the question that then leads to the sale. That's the perfect way of dealing with this. Okay, if you have to force the sale, they're probably too early in the process. They haven't made that commitment. You haven't overcome the resistance. So you've not built the dissatisfaction, or you've not built the vision enough to actually get them to go through that. So we're looking for this emotion before they actually buy. Now, emotion is an interesting thing. And there's another little term that we use, which is called perturbation. Has anybody heard perturbation? To be perturbed. You've heard, if I feel perturbed, I feel uncomfortable, unsure, I'm not feeling great about this. Well, perturbation is a change of state. So I'm changing my state from one where, my old way, which is what I was before I was going to buy what you're selling, to the one that I feel when I've actually bought from you. Okay, so has anybody heard of buyer's remorse? Yeah. Brian, have you ever had buyer's remorse? Please don't say when you took on your coach, because when did you ever say a buyer's remorse? You sort of committed to something, bought it, and then the day after went, oh God, why did I do that?
Definitely once with the car.
With the car, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Not my current car, but it was with the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually big ticket items.
Big ticket items, ones that maybe have been too emotional.
Yeah.
So they were bought on a whim. The emotion ran high at the time, and you got carried away in the moment, and then the adrenaline goes, the emotion goes, and then you get this feeling of perturbation, this sort of, I'm changing state, but I'm a bit uncomfortable, and this uncomfortableness comes from this sort of concept of when something changes state, an emotion is given off. Okay, so if I've got a pan of water sitting on my little Bunsen burner here, and I want to change its state from liquid to gas, I've got to heat it up. I've got to put some pressure onto it, heat and pressure. And that's what happens in the sales process. So in the sales process, we are putting some heat and pressure on our prospects, because we want them to change state from where they were to where they want to be. Now, this is the key to this. If we put this pressure on too early in the process, then it's It's not going to, we're taking them too quickly through the boiling process. So we've got to make sure that we only start this at the right time, this sort of into that conversion rate. So we're going to put that heat and pressure on, and we want that liquid, okay, to change from, you know, oops, come on, from liquid into steam. And this transition, the transition of a pan of water is obviously called the boiling point. So is the boiling point a nice, calm, safe environment? Yeah, what do you reckon? Is that nice and calm that you see on the screen there? No. Okay, it's a turbulent time. So when clients are going through this buying process internally, they can be going through this process. If it's a need-based, this will be less. But if it's a want, you know, go back to Brian and buying this car, there's a perturbation going on. This sort of, you know, this transition from the state I was to the state I want to be. Now, what can happen with that is I start to feel this uncomfortableness. And what's my natural inclination? So if I was, you know, I was okay before I came into this process. I'm going through this buying process, and now I'm feeling this perturbation. What's my natural sort of, where would I naturally go to? Where do I want to go to? Sorry, Alex. Back down. Yeah.
Back down again. So I could find an answer.
Yeah. So I don't like that. That's uncomfortable. So I want to go back down. So Brian's point where he had buyer's remorse was, oh my God, why did I do that? Yeah, I want to go back to where it was. So what happens in the sales process, if we go too quickly, or we just have to accept that they're going to go through this process, yeah, they are going to get to perturbation, and then they're going to go backwards. That's the natural state. The natural state will always be, you know, you stretch elastic band, its natural tendency will be to go back to the way it was. We don't want them to do that. We want them to continue to break through, yeah, to get to a point where they've converted from their water state into their gaseous state. So what do we have to then do in order to achieve that? Keep the pressure on. We've got to keep some heat in that process. We've got to have that empathy and understand they're going to go through this. But if we take that heat off, then there's a big chance that sale is not going to go through. And that emotion that comes out might come out in all sorts of different ways. It might come out, if you've got a high C, yeah, what will a high C tend to do when they go through that perturbation phase? So that cautious, calculating, compliant, correct type of person. What will they look for? Any input from our chat boxes? No? Oh, it must be somebody had something. Start focusing. Yeah. So that they'll focus on, they'll want more detail. Oh, give me some more information. Yeah, I haven't got enough information to make a decision right now. That's a sign that a C is going through perturbation. Okay. S's are quite interesting. S's are the ones that generally will disappear. Okay, because they don't like letting people down. They'll feel uncomfortable that you've taken them through this process, yeah, and they don't want to let you down by saying, no, I'm not ready. I don't want to buy this yet. So S's tend to just, you lose track of them. Okay, generally these go through this quite quickly. They're either going to do this or they're not going to do this. You tend not to have too much of an issue with a D. Okay, D's and I's are probably the easiest ones in sales processes. I's, go through perturbation quite quickly, but their key thing to that is, do they like you? If they like you, and I will buy from you. I's are probably the easiest people to sell to. Okay, because by the time you've gotten to that point, they've bought into the vision, or the dissatisfaction was so bad, they're generally through that process quite quickly. But it's generally your C's and S's that get stuck in this perturbation. The C's want more detail, more information. The S's go quiet. Okay, so if you get to that, we've then got to learn how to actually handle that, to actually deal, to help them through this perturbation. And if we haven't identified their need at a deep enough emotional level, then if it's superficial logical level, then we're never going to get into that. We've got to go back to that, go back to Karina and her shoulder. So look, Karina, I can see you're sort of worried about taking these tablets, but look, if you really want to get all of those things, you have your holidays and do what you want to do, then really the only way to get those is to take these tablets. And if I didn't know that, if I just said, well, take the tablets, I've got no emotional connection with you. Okay, so we've got to look at what the perturbation is coming out from our prospects, why that might be happening, what profile they are, how do we overcome that, how do we move them through this sort of sales process. And some of this can be just down to the language that we use. Again, from the DISC profile, we also have another thing that some people are visual people. Okay, so some people are auditory and some people are kinesthetic. So are we communicating to them in the way that they like to be communicated? Same as the DISC, but they might be visual. They might want to see things. So have you shown them examples of it? Send them pictures of what it could be like. A visual person will like to see actual. So I'm a visual kinesthetic. So I'm looking to go on holiday. If I don't see a picture of where I'm going, I'll never go there. Okay, I need to see it. That's a really important part for me to make any decision. So 40% of the population are generally visual people. So you can pretty rely that a good chunk are going to want some form of visual. Auditory people, that are high auditory are slightly lower, 20%, and kinesthetic are around about 40%. So if you everything was sort of touching, feeling, and seeing, you'll account for about 80%. But you might miss those auditory people that need it explained to them. Okay, they need to be talked through the process, how this is going to work. I've got very low auditory in my profile. So if people talk about things, it really doesn't help me make a decision. I need to either touch it, feel it, or see it. That's the only way that I will buy things. Okay. So again, understand where they are in that process and what type of profile they are. Now, these are not, you can't with a client sort of ask them to do a psychometric test before they buy from you. That's a bit difficult, but there are clues with this. So if you looked at a visual person, so somebody who's high visual, how do you think they would dress?
Nice and smart.
Nice and smart. Okay, they will be they will be color coordinated. They will have good shoes. They will have things that look good. And sometimes we'll look a bit out of place potentially for where they are, but everything about it will look good. The car they will drive will look good. What they wear, how they actually sort of work. So very high, and I'm talking here about sort of 80% visual people that have got really high visual tendencies. Kinesthetic people, so touchy-feely people, how will they dress?
bit more comfortably.
Comfortably, yeah. So they'll wear things that, you know, high kinesthetic sometimes will look a bit bizarre, but it will be really comfort driven. It will be natural fibers. It will be stuff that, yeah, it's there. They'll probably wear things that they've always worn. Yeah, they won't change much because they feel comfortable with what they're actually wearing. What about auditory people? What do auditory people wear? No, it doesn't relate to disc profiles. You can have a high D that's visual, high D that's auditory, high D that's kinesthetic. These two work together, not either or. So, and no, kinesthetic people don't wear hearing aids. Well, they might do, but so these are people that learn through what they hear. You know, they absorb information through what they actually hear, rather than a visual is what they see and a kinesthetic is what they do. So something that's not going to bother them, yeah, that's, I mean, the key to auditory people is what they wear is they don't really care. There's not a lot of thought that goes into it. So you can generally tell a high auditory person because nothing will go. It will look a bit random. You know, brown shoes with black trousers. You know, there'll be something that's a little bit odd with the way they wear. When they talk to you, or when you're talking to them, they won't look at you directly. They'll generally sort of look at you with their ear. So they'll be hearing what you say. They'll be using, you know, I hear what you're saying. So their language will be very much around auditory words. Okay, visual people will be around visual words, kinesthetic. So I use feel a lot when I talk. Okay, that's because I'm a kinesthetic, so I'm a higher kinesthetic than visual. So I'm a visual kinesthetic. So that's why you know what I wear is important to me, but how it feels is more important. So if you can work on these skills when you're in sales to actually really get good at understanding, yeah, am I dealing with a D that's a visual? Am I dealing with a D that's a kinesthetic? These little things are going to really help you to get that empathy and to actually help somebody across the line. And this is why I say sales is a skill that should be developed over years. You never stop with this. You keep learning and learning and learning, trying different things. Because to master it, well, you never really master it, but if you want to do it, if you're a professional salesperson, you should have a desire to actually be the best salesperson you can ever be. And if you learn these skills, you can sell anything. Good salespeople, doesn't matter what they're in, they can sell anything because they're very good communicators and they can actually get people to buy whatever they're selling. Yes, they need some product knowledge, but it's the underlying ability to build trust, ask questions to identify the need, show how they can help, and then continue to get them through that perturbation in order to actually close the sale. So that really, once you've taken them to that point, in most cases you should have got the sale, or at least either got the sale or gotten to a point where they've said, no, I'm not ready. Okay, and so a no is a no, not sort of no, not now. It's not a no, never. So if somebody's not going to buy, you've got to understand why they're not buying. What was the reason they didn't buy? Because to me, you'll learn more from a sale that you don't get than a sale that you do get. So every time I lose a sale, I want to know why I've lost it. Why did I lose that? Now, sometimes it will be obvious for me, and often at the moment it's because I didn't follow my own process, because of various things that, when you've been doing it a long time, this is where you get complacent, you miss steps in your process out, you think you can bypass them, you think you can do the things quicker. Okay, but often it bites you on the arse, and you need to go back to know that is my process. This is how I build the trust. This is how I identify the need. This is how I help. This is how I close the sale. Okay, and that's where certainly if you're dealing with sales teams that you've had a long time, if you start seeing their conversion rates dropping, or the young hungry ones are moving up, it's generally because they're not following their processes. They're getting a bit lazy and complacent. So with the follow-up, speed is of the essence. If you are going to go back, I'd much rather know if I've got a sale or not a sale. The worst thing I find is where I can't get hold of somebody and they're not coming back to me. Now, if they're not coming back to me, that is a no. That's somebody said, no, I don't want to buy from you. And generally, they're not coming back to you because they're a high S profile and they don't want to upset you. They don't want to upset you by telling you your sales pitch stank. Now, I'd rather know that my sales pitch stank so I can do something about it. But because they're a high S, they generally don't tell you. So you've got to therefore do your own homework and find out what it was. Where did I lose that sale? What part of the communication? If it's just a natural thing, we are getting some issues now, obviously with COVID, and we're working from home and things are happening, then that's fine. So that's great. Well, it's okay if I call you back in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, a month's time. As a salesperson, you have to own the communication. Do not wait for a prospect to phone you back. Okay, you've got to make a note. You've got to have that in your diary to phone them back at that time, the time you said you're going to phone them back. And that's why you need the sort of CRM systems to help you with that. And this is a little sort of stats. This is from the National Sales Executive Association. That shows that for some sales, they're not closed on the first chance, but too many salespeople stop too soon. They try once or twice, they don't get through, nothing happens, and they give up and they move on to the next one. Whereas you can see here, 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Okay, so the number of touches it takes for a lot of sales can be up to sort of 12 times. I'm not saying it's, that's from first point of contact right the way through. So your whole sales process needs to have those number of steps in it to get to somebody to know you, like you, trust you, to understand that what you're offering them is going to help them, to then close the sale. And too many people give up too soon. So if you know what your process is of what your 12 points of contact have been, then you've more chance of getting somebody through that process. So sometimes you have to slow the sales process down because you want to get those 12 touches in over a period rather than going straight in with 3 touches and then trying to close the sale, because it's going to be really hard to close it after 3 touches, much easier to close it after 12. So in order to keep this going, so we can do it every now and then, one-offs, but in order to keep it going, we've got to put a system together. Okay, if you do something without writing it down, you're destined to do it for the rest of your life. So we create a system where allows you to sets you free, ensures the consistency. Systems are measurable. You can train other people. It provides accountability, and it can be replicated. So this mapping it out, writing the system of how do I take somebody from being cold through to lukewarm, through to tepid, through to warm, through to sale. What are those natural stages that they need to go through? Again, every business will be different. If you're selling a need-based product, those will be quite short, and done very quickly. If you're a big ticket, big sale item, it's going to take longer over a longer period of time. Okay, but mapping them out and understanding where they are in that process is key. And then, that's to me why every serious business really does need a CRM system. You know, it doesn't matter which one you use. I've been using Salesforce for 15 years, having started in spreadsheets and tried a couple, and you know, it just makes the whole process so much easier. And when you've got other people running it, they've got something to come back to. It's in one place. You've not got multiple systems. And one of the key things it does, it provides accountability. So it means you can check up on people. Where are they? You can look at the entire pipeline and know exactly where these people are and what needs to happen next. So if somebody was to not be there for a month, yeah, you can still, somebody else can pick up the CRM and follow them through and pick it up and do those calls, do those phone backs. So it's really important. And also, yeah, it's an easy way to find your conversion rates, the number of leads that have been generated. So those 5 ways numbers that we said were so important at the start to set your goals, you've got all that information to hand. So before you do that, before you go to a CRM system, I would always say, you know, if you're not ready to go into it yet, map out your sales process. Yeah, from that start of the conversation right the way through to the sale, and even post sale. So even after the sale, so where we said with Brian's buyer's remorse, if you're selling something that can create that, put something in after the sale to alleviate the buyer's remorse. Okay, so you know, so for me, when I did this, you know, after signing a client up, you know, we would give them a bottle of champagne, give them a gift pack. You know, it becomes a little bit harder because of COVID, but there's things that you can do. You know, get them started on something. Okay, give them some value early on so they can say, yes, yeah, I did that, I got that, and therefore I'm more comfortable now that I made the right decision. Yeah, if they've bought something and they get nothing, hear nothing from you for a month, yeah, first thing in their mind is, oh, I've been ripped off. So have that post-sale communication as well, and build that into your process. And you know, just map it out on a flow chart, write it on a whiteboard, use post-it notes. Doesn't matter how you do it, but really be clear what those steps in that process are. And don't be afraid of scripts. You know, scripts are there again to provide. I'm not saying with sales scripts, with, you know, that you have to be verbatim. You know, if you can, that's great, because if you think about it, if you go and see a play, yeah, if the people on the stage aren't using script, you're going to see a pretty crap play. They're all just making it up as they go along. Now they rehearse those scripts day in, day out for months before they go on stage to deliver. Yeah, and they get better and better at delivering the script because they know the script is the thing that works. If you're looking at yourself and your sales and your sales team and they're not using scripts, yeah, are they really just making it up on the wing? So if they have a good day, they do a good sales pitch. If they're having a bad day, they do a bad sales pitch. When actors are on stage, doesn't matter whether they've had a good day or a bad day, they deliver the same quality script every single time. Okay, so build in, and if you build in the scripts, you can build in the questions, you can build in the, you know, what you need to find the disc profiles, you can build what you need to find the VAC. All of these things can be built into that. And you can train people, you can learn, and it will continually improve. So when new people come in, they're not starting from scratch. You know, here's a script, we know this works, we get about a 75% conversion rate with this. If you can come up with things to do it better, then please, you know, please come up with some suggestions, and we review this on a monthly, quarterly basis, and we pick up our learnings from it. If you don't have it, then, you know, you're just not giving yourself a chance to actually improve. So that brings us pretty much to 6 o'clock. Home fun. So what I like to take away from this is, number one, really sort of look into measuring those 5 ways, know your numbers, and start setting smarter goals. Okay, really look at what the goal is you want to achieve for the next month, the next quarter, the next year, and break it down and have it so it's personal to you, not just, let's say, the big goal, but right, what am I in control of? What can I actually deliver on? Identify your limiting beliefs. So, you know, look at yourself in the mirror as a salesperson and make a note of 3 or 4 things that could be better. So what am I not good at? What could I be better at? Find some books. If you want some steer, just email me and I'll give you a steer in whichever particular area it is. But certainly be working on a particular area to work on your own internal actions. So your internal person as a salesperson. And then really sit down and look at your sales process. So what do we do when we get that inquiry? What are those steps? What are the scripts at each step? How can I improve them? Are we put enough in there to build enough trust? Am I asking enough good questions? And am I really showing how I can help? And am I closing the sale in those 4 key areas? Yeah, and you won't go far wrong if you do that. So thank you for your time. So are there any questions before we go? Have I managed to answer everybody's points from earlier? Let me just go back up there. Just unmute yourself if you do. So we had hurrying clients to a sale. So, you know, that really is about perturbation, understanding what is the perturbation and making sure that, you know, you communicate with those people in the style they like to be communicated to get you across. How to grow 50%? Well, you know, you've got to break that down into more detail. So I think we've covered that. Selling to a client you've had no dealing with before. Trust. Start. You won't go anywhere with a brand new client unless you've built the right level of trust to move on. So that's the bit that you need to work on to start with in your process. So good. Any questions? No? Fabulous. Good. Well, been great having you on, guys. So please do, you know, take those notes. Say email me if there's anything you want clarification of, or if you want that 100% sales process sent through. And I will hopefully see you at the next one, and for most of you at the next coaching session. So good to see you, and see you soon. Bye for now.